honorary Japanese citizenship on April 7, 2003, the only fictional character to be given such an honor. He would later star in a live-action TV show in 1959, though Tezuka believed animation was the best medium for him, and as mentioned earlier, Tezuka's original love. However, he still had to make a few more classic mangas to produce first. With the success of Tetsuwan Atom, Osamu Tezuka next created Ribbon no Kishi, Princess Knight, in 1953, which would be a serialized and shoujo club magazine from 1953 to 1956. The manga followed the adventures of Sapphire, a girl princess accidentally born with a blue heart of a boy and the pink heart of a girl, while also having to pretend to be a boy to prevent the evil Duke Duralum Numen from seizing the throne of the fantasy world of Silverland. The gender-bending character was inspired by Takara Revue's all-female acting troupe from Tetsuga's youth, as the female actors played male and female roles, and would play to the larger themes of gender in the series. As Sapphire takes on many traditional male roles, from hero to prince to defend her kingdom, and the character remains an icon in the larger exploration of sexuality, especially in Japanese culture. Tezuka also revolutionized the shoujo genre of manga as well, which was originally just gag strips and tales of good behavior for girls, to creating one with a creative narrative and a true female superhero. Princess Knight will receive numerous adaptations afterwards, from a musical to a radio and of course anime series, which Tezuka would tackle later. In 1954, Tezuka began what would be his life's work with Phoenix, a story about reincarnation, with each volume telling a different story at a different time. He wouldn't publish the first story, Dawn, until 1967 in manga magazine, taking place in the 2040 to 70 era of Japan under Queen Himiko, with the second volume, Future, taking place to be the final story in the series chronologically in the year 3034 near the end of mankind. Tezuka would add to the series throughout his career, tackling different eras over what would ultimately be 12 volumes until 1988. These series would also see numerous live-action and anime adaptations, something that Tezuka kept showing interest in. In 1958, Toei Animation asked Tezuka if they could adapt his manga Shongoku the Monkey into an anime, which would be made into Alakazam the Great in 1960, about a monkey who learns magic believing it would make him a king, only to see it blow up in his face. Toei claimed Tezuka actually directed it, but he denied it, saying the most he did for the studio was to show up and pose for a few publicity photos. However, it reportedly did Tezuka interested in making animation, like his idol Walt Disney, but he was going to do it himself. Tezuka also had his personal life move up when he married Asuko Okode, with whom he would have two children, Makoto and Romiko. Despite being married and becoming a father, Makoto was born on August 11, 1961. Tezuka's professional life wasn't slowing down, as he was now moving into animation. To achieve this, Osamu Tezuka founded Mushi Productions to make the Atom cartoons, along with being a rival to Toei Animation, the legendary anime studio many know today for producing such classic series as Dragon Ball Z and One Piece. Mushi struggled with the budget for Astro Boy, though, and thus turned to the William, Hanna, and Joseph Barbera of the legendary Hanna-Barbera Studios. To the producers of the classic The Flintstones cartoon, they adapted the show to 12 frames a second, half the Disney standard, allowing each episode to be made for just $5,000. The cartoon premiered on June 1st, 1963 in Japan and became an instant hit, jump-starting Japan's animation industry. The series ran from January 1st, 1963 to December 31st, 1966 for a total of 193 episodes. It was such a success in America as well, where it was redubbed in English and became known as Astro Boy. Fred Ladd at NBC Productions adapted the show, releasing 104 episodes of the series, running from September 7, 1963 to August 20, 1965. Though American censors will have problems with some of the content, a theme that will occur throughout Tezuka's career and manga in general. For example, the scene of a dog being operated on was considered grotesque, which raised objections from Tezuka, pointing out animal treatment in general in hunting and food production. Ultimately, only 104 of the episodes originally aired in the U.S. due to the dark content like this, along with the fact it was still in black and white at a time when TV in America was converting to color. The success of Astro Boy did bring Osamu Tezuka to America in 1964, where he went to attend the New York World's Fair and finally got to meet his professional idol, Walt Disney, at his It's a Small World exhibit. To his surprise, Disney said he loved Astro Boy, stating he would hope to create something just as good one day. Osamu Tezuka will remember it as one of the greatest moments of his life, especially considering how much Disney influenced Astro Boy directly. He was inspired by Pinocchio, after all, along with manga and anime in general. Most significantly was the innovation Disney Animation did with large eyes of their characters, something that Tezuka imitated and thus every manga and anime artist did afterwards. The trick Disney discovered was that the faces were notoriously hard to draw, even today, but essential to convey emotion of a character. However, eyes are easier, and by making them larger, it focuses the viewer on them and thus easier to express the emotion of the character through the eyes. It's a trick that artists across the world continue to this day. As the saying goes, the eye is the window to the soul. Thus, making them bigger makes it easier to see into a character. So, that is another of Walt Disney's infinite contributions to comics and animation, but this podcast is about Osamu Tezuka, so back to him. The success of Astro Boy also brought Osamu Tezuka to the attention of other entertainment professionals. Reportedly, according to Tezuka's own diary, Walt Disney once reached out to him again about working on a science fiction project, but nothing came of it. He was also approached in 1965 by film director Stanley Kubrick to be the art director for his next film, 2001: A Space Odyssey. Tezuka had to turn Kubrick down due to the fact he couldn't afford to leave his studio to work in England for a year, but when the film was eventually released, he loved it, and he would play the soundtrack when he had to work long nights. Mushi Productions continued to push the animation medium in Japan, producing other shows like Goku no Dakudeken, an adaptation of Princess Knight, Kimba the White Lion, Dororo, Ashika, and Ashika Nojo. The studio also pushed more adult-oriented works such as 1001 Nights, Cleopatra, Japan's first X-rated animated movie, and nearly the first in the United States, if not for Fritz the Cat being released a few days earlier on April 18, 1972, the Cleopatra's April 24th release, and The Belladonna of Sadness. However, Tezuka's demanding standards led to unrealistically suppressed budgets to outbid competitors, thus leading to the company becoming unprofitable. He would leave the studio in 1968, forming a new company, Tezuka Productions, while Mushi would go bankrupt in 1973. A new Mushi Productions was formed in 1977 and continues to operate to this day. Originally, Tezuka Productions was formed to manage manga production and copyrights, taking subcontract work from Mushi, such as Fushiga no Momiro, Marvelous Momo, an adaptation of Tezuka's manga about a 9-year-old girl tasked with caring for her two younger brothers when their mom dies. To do so, she is gifted with a magical bottle of pills that allows her to age to 19. The manga ran from September 1970 to March of 1972 in Shogoko and Senichi magazine, with the anime running for 26 episodes from October 3, 1971 to March 26, 1972, even airing on TBS in the United States. Back on the manga side, the Raija Kakigi, manga styled for more adult audiences, led to Tezuka to create Calm magazine in January 1967, as an outlet for himself and other manga artists to produce more adult avant-garde work. The first 7 stories of Tezuka's Phoenix would appear in the magazine, along with being a showcase for Murasaki Yamada, the famous female artist who first got her start in the magazine. However, the magazine would end in 1972 with Mushi Productions going bankrupt the following year. Tezuka would reach a low point in his career. At 45, Osamu Tezuka was called the Old Man, whose work belonged in museums. As a result, he fell into a deep depression. Much of this was from younger generations of artists who wanted to change manga to Gakigi, dramatic pictures, believing manga too kiddie-friendly, similar to how some artists in America prefer graphic novels over comic books. They borrowed Gakigi from Kimisaibi for more mature works. Akito Shoten, the publisher of Shonen Champion, a weekly magazine, took pity on Osamu Tezuka and offered him the right to publish anything he wanted after hearing he was planning to retire in 1973. Tapping into his medical background, Tezuka created Black Jack, about a rebel surgeon who investigated murder mysteries, first appearing in Weekly Shonen Champion on November 19, 1973, and would run through October 14, 1983, creating 17 volumes in his original run. Along with resurrecting Tezuka's career, the character today is considered his third most popular creation after Astro Boy and Kimba. Of course, the character will be readapted in other formats from a live-action series and anime, along with other manga artists doing remakes of the original series. He became so popular. So much so, many young people in Japan were inspired to go into the medical profession due to their manga hero, Blackjack, though his unorthodox methods were condemned by the medical community. Tezuka also meant for him to be entertainment, though he hoped to inspire a different take on medical practices. The manga did have numerous science fiction and fantasy elements that wouldn't apply to the real world anyway, from Blackjack performing major surgery on himself to Pakinko, his assistant adopted daughter who was originally a parasitic twin now inside a plastic exoskeleton he built for her. Overall, though, Blackjack showed that Tezuka could compete with the new Gakigi artist, if not show them a thing or two. Simply put, Osamu Tezuka was back, and he was about to revolutionize manga for a second time. His next work was Buddha, which first was published on September 1972 and ran to December of 1983, an epic covering the life of Gautama Buddha, the founder of Buddhism. While noted for being humorless, it was also visually explicit and thought-provoking. It is considered by many to be the one of Tezuka's last epics. The series would later be reprinted in America, winning the Eisner and the Harvey Awards for Best Foreign Material in 2004 and 2005, and has been adapted into anime movies, the first in 2011 and the second in 2014, produced by Tetsuya Pictures and animated by Toei. Despite being agnostic, Tetsuya would later be buried in a Buddhist ceremony when he died, and the first Buddha film was released on May 28, 2011. Timed with the 750th memorial of Shinran Shonin, the founder of the Jodo Shinshu sect of Buddhism. As if doing a biopic on one of history's great religious figures wasn't enough, Tezuka then turned his attention to one of the great tyrants, Adolf Hitler. Message to Adolf ni Tsugi in Japan, and just Adolf in early English reprints, were first published on January 6, 1983, and ran to May 30, 1985, running for a total of 5 volumes. The story was actually one of 3 Adolfs: Adolf Hitler, Adolf Camille, an Azeki Akazani Jew living in Japan, and Adolf Kaufmann, Camille's best friend who is of German and Japanese descent. All 3 become entangled in the quest of Shoei Toge, a Japanese reporter searching for documents that could turn the tide of World War II, all while delivering an epic touching on racism, nationality, and spy fiction. Upon completion, Adolf received the Konishi's Mango Award in 1986 for general manga. A large part of Osamu Tezuka's revival during this time was adapting his style to more modern sensibilities. Osamu emphasized theatrics, he grew up next to a theater actors, and fourth wall breaking, using non-sexual Hanakichi-shugi-style characters to break the tension. Tezuka actually started this change back in 1967 with his manga series Dororo, a 4-volume series that ran from August 27, 1967 to October of 1969 in the Weekly Shonen Sunday. It was inspired by the success of Shigeru Miyazaki's GGG no Kitaro, which popularized the yoki folklore characters subgenre of manga. In Tetsuga's Dororo, the story was about a ronin, Hikamiro, a young orphan Dororo, who traveled Japan during the Shogoku period, 1467 to 1600, which is noted for its extreme social upheaval. As this ronin must defeat 48 demons to restore his body and ultimately his humanity. The name Dororo comes from Tetsuya's childhood memory of his friends pronouncing Dorobu, Japanese for thief, as Dororo. The story would receive multiple adaptations, including 2 anime series, one in 1969 and one in 2019, along with a live-action movie and a video game. He would also work in characters from past works into current ones as Easter eggs for readers, but in different roles. For example, Astro Boy appears in Blackjack as a patient. Osamu has also developed a star system to keep track of his characters, revising them periodically based on their rankings in popularity and salary. Tetsuya joked his fictional characters' pay was the equivalent of Hollywood movie actors, which also allowed for fast reading, as you can easily recognize characters and process a manga really fast. Osamu Tezuka would continue to work up until his death on February 1st, 1989, when he was diagnosed with stomach cancer, and reportedly his last lines were, "I'm begging you, let me work," as a nurse had to take his drawing equipment away. He is credited today with making manga as popular as it is. With the help of his assistants, he produced 170,000 pages across 700 titles in multiple genres. Osamu also produced 110 films and the first Japanese color cartoon, Jungle Emperor, in 1965, along with revolutionizing the shogi genre of manga with Princess Knight. In 1971, the publisher Shunichi established the 1 million yen Tetsuga Award, Japan's highest honor for new comics artists. The year of his death, in 1989, the Emperor of Japan awarded him the sacred treasure, Yoshibei, for his service to his nation. The town where he grew up, Tekazarazuka Yogo, created a museum in his honor, which was inaugurated on April 25, 1994, while stamps of the Tetsuga were issued in 1997. This only scratched the surface of numerous awards and accolades he would receive throughout his during and after his lifetime. He also received the Inkpot Award in 1980 at the San Diego Comic-Con, while his works Buddha and Dororo would receive Eisners long after he died. Today, many of his work is preserved by his son, Makoto Tetsuga, who is part owner of Tetsuga Productions, and has worked with releasing many of his father's posthumous works, along with running his own company, Neo Tetra. Most significantly, though, is when the Japanese call Osamu Tezuka the god of manga, they are essentially saying he is the god of comics. and with the breadth of his works, it is hard to argue otherwise. I would like to thank the chief source this episode